the world's best engineer. Picture this. A young civil engineer who always dreamt of being a hero suddenly finds himself in a strange new world. But there's a catch. He's not the brave protagonist he always imagined he would be. No, he's the scumbag character, the typical spoiled brat, or worse. To make matters worse, the new world is full of problems that need solving, and the fate of his new family hangs in the balance. Talk about a tough first day on the job. But our hero is not one to back down from a challenge. Armed with the modern world engineering skills, he sets out to save the day. With each problem he solves, he slowly gains the respect of his new family, and even manages to turn his scumbag image around. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. He faces more hurdles than a track and field athlete, but he never loses his sense of humor or his determination to make the most of his new life. Who knows? Maybe he'll even end up becoming the hero he always wanted to be. Kim Soo-ho awakens from his slumber and finds himself sprawled on the ground in a strange, unknown land. Suddenly, a pop-up window appears before him, and he rubs his eyes in disbelief. It's like he's in one of those sci-fi movies he's obsessed with. The window notifies him that one of his outlandish wishes has been granted, and he's now a character in his favorite novel, Iron-Blooded Engineer. And guess what? He's not just any character, but the son of the powerful Baron of Frontera Estate, a scumbag, spoiled brat, or even worse. Soo-ho can't believe his luck, and as he tries to gather his thoughts, he realizes that he read the same novel the night before. It's like his wish was teleported into his dreams and brought to life. He soon understands that he's been summoned to a parallel world where the novel's plot and characters are real. What a ride! Soo-ho, now known as Lloyd, meets the novel's main character, Haebil Asrahan, who he recognizes immediately as the well-known swordsman, but he can't believe that he's talking to a fictional character. It's like meeting Harry Potter in person. Lloyd is confused and preoccupied with his new circumstances, but he's also secretly thrilled to be a part of his favorite book. Haebil takes Lloyd to his family mansion, which is colder than a penguin's armpit. Lloyd can't believe he's stuck in this freezing hellhole, but he's determined to make the best of it. He decides to make amends for his past misdeeds by visiting the tavern he destroyed in the novel's plot. The tavern owner and Haebil are shocked when they see Lloyd acting all humble and nice. It's like he's been possessed by a noble ghost. But here's the kicker. Lloyd's got some mad engineering skills up his sleeve. Who knew he used to be a civil engineer in Korea? He decides to build a heating system for the tavern owner, using his knowledge to make up for his past misdeeds. The tavern owner and Lloyd's new family are amazed by his creation. It's like Lloyd's gone from being a villain to a hero in no time. So there's this guy trying to get his first order for installing a heating system, and just when he thought he's making progress, he learns about this new skill called RP, Relationship Points. Now, this dude realizes he can't just install the heating system, he has to butter up the characters in the novel too. But when he checks his RP with Haebil, he sees a -30. That's like starting in the red. So he starts complimenting Haebil, but it backfires horribly. Haebil finds it weird, and his RP drops to -31. Talk about a swing and a miss. So what does our hero do? He goes to the tavern and makes a deal with the owner. He promises to build a heating system room in exchange for the owner's signature on a contract. Now that's one way to get positive points with the characters. Bribery. Who knew heating systems could be so complicated? So now this guy Lloyd is in a real bind. The tavern owner won't sign the contract, and Lloyd's desperate for some positive points. So what to do? He takes matters into his own hands and starts digging in the backyard after forcing the tavern owner into signing the contract. You heard that right, digging. The tavern owner is suspicious, of course, but Lloyd's got a trick up his sleeve. He claims he's going to make the owner and his mom happy. The owner's confused, but Lloyd's determined. Next thing you know, Haebil's on board too. Lloyd's taken advantage of Haebil's curiosity and convinced him to help build this heating system room called Ondol. And lo and behold, they actually complete the darn thing. The tavern owner and his mom are super pleased with the toasty ondol, surprising even Habil. And Lloyd? Well, he's earned himself a whopping 36 RP points for making Habil happy. I mean, who knew digging in a backyard would pay off like this? Oh, stop it. You did not know. But Lloyd's not done yet. Oh no, he's got big plans for this ondol. He's inviting all the town men over to test it out. And he's even offering them a choice. They can install it as a separate building or remodel their existing house. Now, that's some real entrepreneurial spirit. Looks like Lloyd's heating up the town, one ondol at a time. And here we go again. Lloyd's trying to pressure some guy into signing a contract to build an ondol. But suddenly, his dad shows up and he's not happy. In fact, he's got a negative 20 RP against Lloyd. That's rough, man. And things only get worse when they sit down for lunch. Lloyd's dad starts getting all suspicious, accusing him of trying to defraud people to pay off the family debt. Talk about a buzzkill. His father assures him that he's got this thing covered, but Lloyd's not buying it. He knows his dad's just trying to calm him down with some empty words. After all, he's seen this before back in Korea, and it didn't work out too well then. So what's next? He storms out of the dining hall, thinking about all the construction down payments he's received. Now, can you blame him? He's got a business to run, debt to pay off, and now a dad to deal with. Life sure is complicated when you're trying to make it in the ondol game. Things are getting wild for Lloyd. He's just trying to run his ondol business, and now there are loan sharks lurking around his mansion. And what's a guy to do? Well, Lloyd doesn't take this lying down. He waltzes right into the room and threatens these loan sharks with amputation. Yikes! Talk about taking things to the next level. But hey, it works. Lloyd cites the kingdom's noble law and scares those sharks so badly that they have no choice but to flee. I guess Lloyd's not messing around when it comes to protecting his family and his business. It's not just the loan sharks who are feeling the heat. Lloyd's also making moves to strengthen his bond with his dad. He pays him the down payment he's received from his ondol business and earns enough RP to buy a fantasy animal. I mean, who doesn't want a magical creature to help them with their ondol business? Talk about a real power move. Looks like Lloyd's not just building ondols, he's building his own little empire. So Lloyd summons this fantasy animal, all excited to see what kind of magical creature he's going to get. But when he sees that it's just a tiny little hamster, he's like, what the heck, man? This thing is useless. Poor hamster Pudung is already feeling bad about himself, but Lloyd doesn't even give him a chance. But then, something amazing happens. Lloyd reads the hamster's manual and discovers that Pudong has some seriously impressive skills. Like, this little guy can grow up to 5 meters by eating a red sunflower seed, and then he can shrink back down to this tiny hamster size by eating a blue sunflower seed. Talk about a useful pet. Lloyd is ecstatic. He has finally found a pet that he can do more than just sleep all day and nibble on pellets. Pudong is a game changer. He can excavate like a bulldozer, harden the ground like a cement truck, and pouch things in his cheeks like a chipmunk on steroids. In fact, Pudong's skills solve a ton of Lloyd's construction problems. Lloyd is convinced that with Pudong by his side, he can take on any construction project. Who needs heavy machinery when you've got a giant hamster on your side? Looks like Lloyd's starting to see the value in all creatures great and small, even if they start out as tiny little hamsters. So, Lloyd's feeling pretty good about himself and his hamster sidekick, Pudong. He's got all these construction problems solved, and he's ready to take on bigger projects. But when he tries to recruit some military personnel for a large-scale construction job, things take a turn. Enter Newman, the senior knight who accuses Lloyd of exploiting his men for personal gain. Now, Lloyd knows that Newman is a traitor who's been selling sensitive information to the swindlers, so he's not exactly thrilled to be getting accused of anything by this guy. In fact, Lloyd is so fed up that he straight up insults Newman and challenges him to a duel in a month's time. Because that's how they do things in this world, apparently. But seriously, you gotta give Lloyd credit for standing up for himself and not taking any crap from a traitor. Maybe he's not the most diplomatic guy, but he's got guts, and you've gotta respect that. Plus, he's got Pudong by his side, so really, what could go wrong? Lloyd's on a roll lately, and he's not about to let Haybeel's reluctance put a damper on his plans. Determined to acquire swordsman-like skills, Lloyd devises a scheme to persuade Haybeel to teach him, despite the fact that Haybeel views him as a contemptible character. With his unwavering persistence and cunning strategy, Lloyd just may have what it takes to turn Haybeel's reluctance into a valuable asset in his quest for sword mastery. Lloyd reveals an ingenious plan. He manages to cure Haybeel's elusive insomnia, a rare condition known as the Sword Master Syndrome that plagues many in this realm. With his impressive problem-solving skills and a little bit of luck, Lloyd has uncovered the secret remedy to this mysterious affliction, and Haybeel is astounded by his newfound ability to get a full night's rest. Little does Haybeel know that this is just the beginning of the many unconventional solutions that Lloyd has up his sleeve. Lloyd's persistence pays off as he manages to convince Haybeel to teach him sword combat. With Haybeel's condition resolved, he is finally able to take on Lloyd as a student. Despite his initial reluctance, Haybeel is impressed with Lloyd's progress as he completes 50 laps without any complaints. This shows that Lloyd is serious about learning sword combat and is willing to put in the hard work and dedication needed to become a skilled swordsman. However, it's possible that Haybeel is also a little annoyed that his plan to keep Lloyd at bay didn't work. After all, he initially tried to avoid teaching. Lloyd becomes tired after a while, but he reminds himself that he's no stranger to hard work. In Korea, he worked on construction sites every day, doing heavy lifting jobs. He continues his laps training until late at night, and Haybeel decides to keep on teaching him swordsmanship when he sees his spirit and determination. Meanwhile, Newman intends to kill Lloyd in their duel, despite an agreement with Baron not to injure his son critically. A month later, the duel day arrives, and Lloyd shows up with an iron shovel as his weapon. Newman chuckles at Lloyd's weapon of choice, and he's wondering if Lloyd's planning to dig his own grave. Given the personality of Lloyd, he might respond with a smirk, "No, but I do plan on burying you with it." Ha! Newman charges with his sword like he's in a medieval reenactment, and Lloyd's parents probably think their son's career choice is a joke, but little do they know, Lloyd has been training for this moment with his trusty shovel. He has the ultimate trump card up his sleeve, the bayonet charge. As the duel begins, Newman looks confident, but Lloyd knows exactly what to do. He looked at Newman's fancy sword and thought to himself, why use a sword when you can use a shovel, a lifelong partner for construction and duels? With lightning-fast reflexes, Lloyd expertly deflects Newman's attack, leaving him flustered and confused. And then, without warning, Lloyd charged at Newman with the bayonet charge, a technique he had learned during his military service in Korea. Newman doesn't stand a chance. He is left wondering how a simple, shovel-wielding man could outsmart him with modern military tactics. Newman might think it's an insult, and Lloyd's parents might have thought their son was a joke, but after that duel has progressed to that point, everyone knows the real joke was on Newman. Or do they? So get a load of this. Our hero charging towards Newman with a shovel in hand, yelling, "I'm about to dig you a grave, Newman." But instead of just swinging the shovel like an ordinary warrior, he starts using some fancy sword techniques that he learned from Haybeel. And then comes the synchronized digging. He starts syncing his movement with the shovel so frantically and with such precision that he and the shovel become one. Like a shovel-wielding superhero, Newman just stands there, looking like he's about to cry, wondering what he did to deserve this fate. I mean, who needs a fancy sword when you have a trusty shovel and some mad digging skills, right? Our hero has truly raised the bar for all future warriors out there. Dig on, my friend. Dig on. It's finally come to this. Newman is so confident in his mana heart attack that he feels like nothing can stop him from taking down Lloyd. He raises his sword high and prepares to strike, feeling the surge of mana coursing through his veins. And then, in a shocking turn of events, Lloyd whips out the Asrahan core technique that he learned from Haybeel. As the sword clashes with the shovel, Newman's mana is sucked out of him faster than a smoothie at a health food store. Suddenly, he is as weak as a kitten, and Lloyd is as strong as a bull. The crowd gasps as they watch Lloyd pummel Newman with the shovel over and over again. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the beating stops. Newman lies on the ground, whimpering like a wounded puppy, while Lloyd stands over him triumphantly, holding the shovel like a trophy. trophy. The audience is in shock. They've never seen anything like this before. And as for Newman, well, let's just say he won't be underestimating the power of the shovel anytime soon. As Lloyd continues to beat and humiliate Newman, his father sends 2 men to stop him, but something seems off about Lloyd's behavior. He pretends to be calm for a moment, and then suddenly he starts beating Newman again, as if possessed by some kind of demon. His father yells at him, telling him he can't let him tarnish a knight's reputation. For a moment, it seems like Lloyd isn't listening, like he's lost control of himself. But then, he comes to a halt, as if he was expecting those words to come out of his father's mouth. He points to his father's table and requests that he look under the tablecloth. His father is confused, but he does as he's told, and what he finds there is shocking. A pile of letters in which Newman sold sensitive Frontera estate information to their adversaries. Suddenly, the situation takes on a serious tone. Lloyd's behavior was not the result of some kind of possession, but rather a reaction to Newman's betrayal. It becomes clear that Newman was not the honorable knight he pretended to be, but rather a traitor who was willing to sell out his own people for personal gain. With Newman's guilt established, Lloyd suggests some possible punishments for him. Should they abandon him to a ferocious rat and then exile him from the estate, or should they just demote him to a regular knight and let him atone for his sins? Newman tries to play it cool, hiding a devilish grin as he accepts the punishment of being attacked by a rat. He's confident that a little rodent won't do him any harm, and he's already plotting his revenge on Lloyd and Baron. But little does he know, Lloyd is not one to mess around. He has no mercy for Newman, and he proves it by feeding a red seed to Pudong, the giant creature that Newman will have to face. And just like that, Newman is thrown to the mercy of the giant Pudong. It's a hilarious turn of events as Newman goes from being overconfident to being completely screwed. The thought of him being attacked by a tiny rat was funny enough, but the idea of him being thrown to a giant monster is just too much. As Lloyd works tirelessly on building a road system, Habil becomes more and more suspicious of his abilities. He watches Lloyd closely, wondering how he is able to accomplish such feats that have never been done before in their world. Habil decides to confront Lloyd about it, asking him about his knowledge of things like the heating system and magical summonings. Lloyd feels a wave of panic wash over him, realizing that he may have been exposed. He quickly activates his persistence skill and begins to talk his way out of the situation. He speaks rapidly, insisting that he learned everything on his own through trial and error. Habil is left speechless, unsure of how to respond to Lloyd's strange ramblings. As Lloyd continues to spout nonsense, Habil can't help but wonder if he's lost his mind. Habil's skepticism of Lloyd's magical abilities intensifies as he questions him about his summoning skills that supposedly require 20 years of training. Lloyd feels the pressure building up and decides to defend himself with his ego. He responds by belittling Habil, stating that he's a genius himself and that he doesn't need anyone's approval. However, it's clear that Habil is not convinced, and Lloyd's arrogance may be his downfall. Or would it? Next thing you know, Lloyd and Habil travel to Rudenia Estate, a small and remote town. Their main objective is to catch a scammer named Thords, who has been preying on the locals. However, their arrival is not exactly welcomed by the guard, who attempts to stop them using his dark magic. But Habil is quick to react and unleashes his powerful mana heart with triple circles, which easily repels the guard's attack. With the guard defeated, Lloyd and Habil can now focus on catching the scammer and bringing him to justice. Lloyd finally catches Thords red-handed in his scamming ways and decides to take matters into his own hands. But instead of resorting to physical violence, Lloyd unleashes his ultimate weapon, bureaucracy. He forces poor Thords to sign a contract that could make even the most experienced lawyer's head spin. With clauses and sub-clauses that would put a government bill to shame. He makes poor Thords sign a work contract and demands 80% of his salary as repayment. It's like taking a slice of pie and leaving only the crumbs for Thords. And just when Thords thinks he's gotten off easy, Lloyd hits him with the real kicker. The repayment plan extends for a whopping 520 years. It's like signing up for a mortgage that lasts longer than the lifespan of a turtle. Thords is probably thinking, I'll be reincarnated 3 times before this debt is paid off. Lloyd struts into the Frontera estate with his head held high, feeling like a king among peasants. After all, he has just taught a scamming lowlife Thords a lesson that he won't soon forget. And now, it is time for him to do some good for the state and gather some hard-working people together who'll keep his estate running smoothly. He puts out a call for new recruits and decides to sweeten the deal with a hefty salary of 20 gold per employee. It's a tempting offer that draws in a flood of applicants, all eager eager to work. One of the guys who's looking for work thanks Lloyd's for the ondol that saved his kid from a cold. Lloyd's feeling all warm and fuzzy inside until the guy asks him to build another ondol for his relative who lives nearby. Suddenly, Lloyd's face turns evil as he realizes this is a huge opportunity to expand his business. Cha-ching! He thinks to himself. He quickly devises a plan to extract coal from a mountain, since there's a shortage of trees in the area. "I'll be the coal king!" he cackles with glee. But as he's getting ready to start mining, a perilous situation awaits him ahead. Will he make it out alive, or will he end up as coal himself? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, and let's hit 1,000 likes on this video for the next part.